Hello, my name is Andrea Summerell and I am the Executive Director for the Elections Division. The 2024 local government elections involve over 5.5 million electors and will be one of the biggest community events held in New South Wales in 2024. We established close to 300 pre-poll venues and around 2,200 polling places across New South Wales on election day. We also employ more than 20,000 people to assist in conducting the elections. Our webinars are intended to help registered political parties, candidates, scrutineers, and other political participants in the elections by explaining processes, procedures, and compliance obligations for the event. However, I must stress that the information we provide is not legal advice. If political participants are in doubt about any legal matters regarding the election, they should seek their own independent legal advice. I and everyone at the New South Wales Electoral Commission look forward to delivering the 2024 local government elections with transparency, integrity, fairness, and safety. I hope you find these webinars engaging, informative, and helpful.
Good morning and welcome to our Candidate Information webinar on nominations. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Amber King, the Team Lead, Nominations and Electoral Material, and today I'm joined by Gareth Robson, Director, Election Operations.
Morning Amber, morning everyone.
I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands on which we work today and the Aboriginal people participating in this webinar. I pay my respects to elders past and present and recognise the diversity of Aboriginal peoples and their ongoing cultures and connections to the lands and waters of New South Wales. We will be using Slido to receive questions throughout today's webinar. We will be answering questions relevant to all participants. We will not be answering questions specific to an individual person. In this instance, we do ask you to contact us regarding your inquiry. If you do have any technical difficulties throughout today's webinar, please contact us on the phone number on the screen for assistance. While the New South Wales Electoral Commission aims to support all political participants in meeting their obligations, it does not provide legal advice. Opinions expressed by the New South Wales Electoral Commission are not a substitute for the law. All political participants must satisfy themselves as to their legal position, including, where appropriate, obtaining their own legal advice. It is the responsibility of an individual political participant to ensure they comply with the New South Wales electoral law. In today's webinar, we will be covering the following topics. We will be briefly touching on candidate registration, who can be a candidate, the nomination process, including the nomination forms, the request to form a group, the nomination online management system, the candidate information the New South Wales Electoral Commission makes public, the ballot papers, and our upcoming webinars. The Local Government Act and the Local Government General Regulation provide for the conduct of the local government elections in New South Wales. The Electoral Funding Act and Electoral Funding Regulation 2018 provide for the management and disclosure of election campaign finances and the registration of electoral participants at the local government elections. The legislation is available on the New South Wales legislation website. Now, the New South Wales Electoral Commission has held webinars in the lead up to the local government elections 2024. Recordings of those webinars are available for you to review or access on the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website. We also provide any questions and responses to those questions that may have been asked on the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website. Now, Gareth, we're also recording today's webinar and we'll make that available to participants on our website in coming days. And again, we will publish any questions that are asked and the responses for you.
So our previous webinar did talk about candidate registration, but we thought it was worth going through it again. A question we regularly receive is, what's the difference between registration and nomination? They're two separate processes that serve different purposes. Being registered means you can lawfully accept political donations, fundraise and pay for your campaign expenses. Being nominated means that the candidate or the group will be on the ballot paper for the election. Requests to form a group and to have a group voting square on the councillor ballot paper must be made separately as part of the nomination process. Candidates and groups must be registered for electoral funding purposes before accepting political donations or paying for electoral expenditure. The registration period is now open and closes on Wednesday, the 14th of August. Please register using Funding and Disclosure online. If you register prior to the 1st of July, disclosure forms must be submitted for the financial year ending 30 June. We have an online portal for registrations and disclosures. You can apply to register as a candidate or group for electoral funding purposes, update your registered details, enter details of political donations and electoral expenditure as you go along, e-sign and submit disclosures when they're due, but please note PDF forms are still available on request.
Now, Gareth, talking about who can be nominated. So to be nominated as a candidate, the candidate is required to be on the roll for the council by 6 p.m. Monday, the 5th of August. The roll of electors for each council area or ward is a composite roll comprising of the residential roll and the roll of non-resident owners and rateable land and the roll of occupiers and rate-paying lessees. A person can only be enrolled once in a particular council area. Where a council has wards, a person enrolled in Ward A may, for example, nominate as a candidate in Ward B. Now, Gareth, we held a webinar earlier in the year where we did talk in further detail regarding the role.
And there can be questions about the non-residential role. And we'd encourage you to review that information, see our website for more information about non-residential roles, and to contact your local council who administers the non-residential roles.
Now, certain councils have a mayor popularly elected by all electors within the council. The election is held at the same time as the election of councillors. Where the mayor is not popularly elected, they are elected by and from the elected councillors. The New South Wales Electoral Commission is not involved in those elections. Where a council has a popularly elected mayor, a person may be a candidate for both mayor and councillor, but cannot be elected to both offices. Now, with regards to the City of Sydney, if you are nominating for the Lord Mayor, you must also nominate as a councillor for the City of Sydney. If elected as a mayor, a person must accept that office and cannot be elected as councillor. The Local Government Act sets out who may be elected and who is disqualified from holding civic office, that is, being a councillor or a mayor.
People disqualified from holding civic office, as are set out in those sections of the Local Government Act, include a person serving a prison sentence, a person convicted of certain election-related or criminal offences, people prohibited from managing companies. And people prohibited from managing companies can include people or issues in relation to bankruptcy. A person who has been suspended on 3 or more occasions for misconduct as a councillor. Current state members, if they're elected, may only hold office as a councillor if they resign from the Parliament before its first council meeting. And serving judges, the returning officer for the election, and employees of the council for which they wish to stand for election. We cannot confirm whether or not you or any other potential candidate are eligible to nominate for an election. Any candidate who is concerned about disqualification should seek independent legal advice. I note that a person elected to civic office can be dismissed by the New South Wales Civil and Administrative Tribunal if it later finds that you were in fact disqualified.
Now, talking about the nomination process. In order to nominate as a candidate and to have your name appear on the ballot paper for the election, prospective candidates must lodge their nomination form and nomination deposit during the nomination period. The nomination online management system will be available for mid-July for candidates and registered political parties to start preparing their nomination or request to form a group. Now, we have mentioned the lodgement of nominations cannot occur until Monday the 5th of August and must be received by 12 noon Wednesday the 14th of August. Nominations can be lodged online or in the returning officer's office, or in some instance the council administrative office. And we'll have a list of our venues receiving nominations available on our website and opening hours through the lodgement period. It is important to note that it is a candidate's responsibility to ensure that they have fully and correctly completed the nomination form and that your nomination deposit has been received by 12 noon, Wednesday the 14th of August. Now, a candidate can be nominated for the election by a registered political party, or you may be nominated by 2 electors for the area for which you are contesting. In order to nominate by a registered political party, the registered political party is required to be registered with the New South Wales Electoral Commission at least 12 months prior to the closing date for the election. Candidates nominated by a registered political party must be nominated in writing by the registered officer or deputy registered officer of that registered political party. Now, in the instance you're being nominated by electors, where you are nominating for a mayor, you're required to have at least 2 nominators enrolled within the council area for which you are contesting. Where you are nominating as a councillor and the council is undivided, again, you're required to be nominated by at least 2 electors within the council area for which you are contesting. In the instance your council is divided, your nominators are required to be enrolled within the ward that you are contesting. So those rules are slightly different for the candidate themselves. You need to be enrolled within the council area for which you're contesting, but your nominators must be enrolled for a divided council within the specific ward for which you are lodging your nomination. Now, as we've mentioned, the nominators must be enrolled by 6 p.m. Monday the 5th of August. As it is possible some nominators may not be correctly enrolled, we strongly encourage you to provide more nominators to us at the time of lodging. Now, Gareth, the nomination form provides additional space for all of our candidates to provide up to 5 nominators. And we can't stress strongly enough that you do provide more than 2.
Yeah, we make that strong recommendation because people make genuine mistakes. They may be unaware, particularly at a council election, that they're enrolled in a certain ward or not. If there are certain people who you know are going to be nominating you or you hope are going to be your nominators, for instance, you could ask them to check their enrolment before they do it. But the main thing we recommend is that you do provide us more nominators than you require.
Now, if you are using the nomination online management system, when you enter those nominator details, it does do a roll lookup or a verification for you, and it actually will verify whether or not those nominators you have had complete your nominator form are enrolled in the right area for which you're contesting. It's also important to note that a person cannot nominate themselves for an election. Each nomination is required to be accompanied by a nomination deposit. The nomination deposit is $125 per nomination. Where candidate for councillor lodge a request to form a group, so if you're forming a group for the councillor contest, and lodge your nomination forms at the same time, in the instance you have 6 or more candidates within your group, the nomination deposit is capped at $625 for your group. Now, it is important to note that your nomination and/or your request to form a group will be rejected if we have not received your complete nomination deposit prior to the close of nominations. When the nomination is lodged through the nomination online management system, the nomination deposit can be paid online using a Visa or MasterCard. Paper nomination forms can only be lodged with the returning officer for the council for which the nomination is being made. If you are using a paper nomination form, the nomination deposit must be paid in cash, by bank cheque, credit union or building society cheque. The cheques are to be made out to the New South Wales Electoral Commission. If you are lodging in a returning officer's office, it's important to note personal cheques, Visa, MasterCard payments or BPay will not be accepted. In order to nominate as a candidate and have your name appear on the ballot paper for the election, prospective candidates must lodge their nomination form and nomination deposit through the nomination period. And I know, Gareth, we've said that a few times now, but it is important. No late nominations can be accepted.
That's right. We can't accept a late nomination and we can't accept a late nomination deposit. Everything must be valid and in order at the close of nominations.
And you mentioned valid and in order. I'd like to jump in and also suggest where you can lodge your nomination as early as possible. There's often a number of deficiencies with a person's nomination form, and that will provide us time to review your nomination form and give you time to rectify any omissions that might be in place prior to the close of nominations. Now, the nomination deposit will be returned to a candidate or group in the instance an election is uncontested, in the instance a candidate dies or withdraws their nomination prior to the close of nominations, a candidate is elected or receives 4% of the total formal first preference votes, if a candidate included in a group and a member of the group is elected, or the group receives at least 4% of the total formal first preference votes, your nomination deposit will be returned to you following the conduct of the election. Now, the nomination form, either online or if you are using the paper nomination form, provides you space to provide us with details to return that nomination deposit to you. I please encourage you to provide that to us at the time of lodging your nomination. It will allow us to return that nomination deposit to you as quickly as possible. Now, Gareth, the nomination forms. There's 2 nomination forms in the instance you're nominating for mayor or councillor. And the nomination form is for a nomination by registered political party or a nomination by 2 electors. We have a request to form a group, and then there will be an amendment and withdrawal of a candidate or a withdrawal of a group form available on the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website through the nomination period. Now, it's important to note that our electronic signatures cannot be accepted on any of our nomination forms. Now, I'd like to walk through the nomination forms for a candidate. Whether you're being nominated by a councillor, by a registered political party or by 2 electors, the nomination forms are fundamentally the same. The first part of the nomination form is our candidate and ballot paper details. And this is where we ask you to provide the name for which you would like to have displayed on the ballot paper. Provide us with contact details, and those contact details are for the New South Wales Electoral Commission to contact you about your nomination, and through the conduct of the election, we will provide communication about voting and the election results. And then there's also a space for you to provide us contact details for display on the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website if you'd like to make contact details or your website available to electors to access.
And we hope we make that quite clear on the form. What is the information that the Commission will use to communicate with you and the information that we're going to make publicly available. So please keep your personal contact details up to date on the form, or let us know if they change. As Amber said, this is how we will send you not only individual communication about your nomination, but the general information we're providing on a regular basis now until the election about information that you can use to make your participation in the election simpler, hopefully, and so you have all the information you need.
Now, Gareth, I just want to jump in. In the instance you are a candidate being nominated by a registered political party, it's okay for us to still receive the contact details for the candidates. I will ensure that all the registered political parties will be communicated with, and they'll receive the same communications we actually distribute to your candidates, so that we're able to contact the candidate, but we will also keep the registered officer and deputy registered officers informed throughout our election processes. The second part of your nomination form is the nominator form. Now, in the instance you're being nominated by a registered political party, this is the part of the nomination form we require the registered officer or deputy registered officer to sign your nominator form. Or in the instance you're being nominated by 2 electors, this is the section you'll collect your nominated details, as we've walked through earlier in today's webinar. Then, Gareth, we have the candidate information sheet.
Yes, we wanted to discuss this separately because we know some candidates have had difficulties with this sheet. It's important to note that your nomination won't be valid unless it's accompanied by a completed candidate information sheet. The information on the candidate information sheet must be published on our website, and it's made available for inspection at the returning officer's office, pre-poll locations and at polling places. A fully and validly completed candidate information sheet must be received by the close of nominations, or the nomination will be rejected.
Now, Gareth, just jumping in here, it is important, I know you've mentioned like a full and validly completed. This is probably the highest section or part within our nomination form that candidates do make omissions, or that there is errors on, and that we do have to go back to candidates to have the candidate information sheet re-lodged or corrected prior to the close of nominations. Again, this is one of the areas I can't stress strongly enough, that you do lodge your nomination early, to allow us to review your nomination and contact you if there is any errors.
Yes, and the reason we have to ask for it to be re-lodged and not simply fixed is that the candidate information sheet is a statutory declaration. One area in particular is that we've had difficulties with previous candidates, is that only certain people are authorised to witness a statutory declaration in New South Wales. We recommend that your authorised witness is a Justice of the Peace, a public notary, or a lawyer. It's important to note that fewer people are authorised to witness statutory declarations in New South Wales than a Commonwealth statutory declaration. When you're searching online, you may find information that applies to the Commonwealth statutory declaration, but that long list of people who can witness those declarations does not apply to the declaration that is in your candidate information sheet. Another information sheet in the nomination is the statistical information sheet. And the nomination of a candidate is again not valid unless it's accompanied by the information sheet. It captures generic information such as gender, occupation, age and more. We are required to forward the statistical information sheet to the Office of Local Government at the completion of the election.
Oh, sorry, Gareth. Now, as I've mentioned, Gareth, we'll also have the withdrawal of a nomination form available on our website. The withdrawal of a nomination form is required to be lodged with the returning officer prior to 12 noon, Wednesday the 14th of August. It's important to note, in the instance the candidate is being nominated by a registered political party, a registered officer and deputy registered officer cannot withdraw a candidate's nomination. Now, the request to form a group. Candidates may form a group on the ballot paper for a councillor election. A group requires a minimum of 2 candidates to form a group. The request to form a group form is required to be signed by each candidate wishing to be within that group. The request to form a group is laid out that we ask you to provide us the candidates in the order for which they will be displayed on the ballot paper. Now, again, in the instance your group or your candidates are being nominated by a registered political party cannot sign the request to form a group on behalf of a candidate. The request to form a group form includes a question whether or not you'd like to have a group voting square displayed on the ballot paper. A group voting square can only be requested if you have sufficient number of candidates within your group for the area for which you're contesting. And what that means, if you're contesting a council that is undivided and has no wards, the number of candidates within your group to be able to have a group voting square must be half the number of candidates that is to be elected. So if there is 11 councillors to be elected for the council, you need to have 6 candidates within your group before you are able to request a group voting square, where you are requesting to form a group in a council that is divided. If there is 3 councillors to be elected within the ward for which you are nominating, you need to have a minimum of 3 candidates within your group to request a group voting square. And again, if you use the nomination online management system, it will prompt you and will not allow you to request a group voting square until you meet those minimum entitlements. The group voting square allows voters to vote for a group or groups as an alternative to showing preferences for individual candidates below the line. Unless more than one group has requested a group voting square on the ballot paper, there will be no group voting squares on the ballot paper and therefore no above the line voting. In these cases, the candidates who have formed a group will be still shown as a group on the ballot paper but will not have a group voting square displayed above the line. Ungrouped candidates. So where there is no groups formed in a councillor election, where there are groups formed in a councillor election and you are nominating as an ungrouped councillor, you will be displayed on the far right column of the ballot paper. There is nothing printed on the ballot paper to identify them as an ungrouped candidates. So there's no heading saying ungrouped candidates on the ballot paper, and there will be no group voting square above the line. A group can withdraw their request to be a group prior to the close of nominations. The withdrawal of a claim to be included in a group must be received by close of nominations. And I apologise, the date on this slide is actually incorrect. So the withdrawal of a group must be received by the returning officer by 12 noon, Wednesday the 14th of August. The withdrawal of a group is required to be signed by each candidate within a group. And again, the registered officer or deputy registered officer cannot sign on behalf of our candidates. Now, the nomination online management system. Most of you will be familiar with the nomination online management system. We have used it in previous elections. The nomination online management system will allow you to create your nomination. It will allow you to form your group, complete each part of your nomination form, sign and upload your nomination form, and have each of your candidates sign your request to form a group, upload that, and pay your nomination deposit online. The nomination online management system will be available to all participants from mid-July. We will communicate with all participants as soon as that system becomes available, so that you can start preparing your nomination. It's important to note that nominations cannot be lodged. So while we'll make the system available to you, nominations cannot be lodged until the lodgement period that commences on Monday, the 5th of August. Now, the advantages of using the nomination online management system, and we've touched on some of these already, Gareth, but it allows you to verify your enrolment details as a candidate. It allows you to verify your nominators' enrolment details and that they live within the area for which you are contesting. It ensures your nomination forms are complete. It provides an oversight to the registered political parties, or in the instance you're helping to form a group within a council. It'll provide oversight on how each candidate within your group is going and completing their nomination form. Automated notifications will be distributed to you regarding your nomination or your request to form a group. And one of the other benefits is you can actually send an invitation to your candidates. So you can start the process off, you can prepare their nomination form and then send the invitation electronically to your candidates to log in, download the form, sign and upload that. And again, it gives you that oversight of that progress. There will be resources and support available to all participants using the nomination online management system. Training sessions will be made available. Weekly drop-in sessions will be available to all participants. A link will be available on our website, Gareth, for anyone who would like assistance using the system or would like to ask any questions. The The nomination online management system also has a number of simulations available on the home page, and it's all but just a walkthrough to show you or demonstration on how to use the nomination online management system. And as always, we have the candidate help desk available for you that's operating now to answer any of your inquiries and assist you in any of your processes.
I was just going to add, Amber, we are coming to questions later, but someone has just asked whether it's mandatory to use NOMS. It isn't mandatory. We're making the paper form available as well, but please consider those advantages. They really do assist you. The system will assist you to ensure your nomination's valid. So at the point you lodge, there will be very few problems with that nomination. We do our best to make sure any problems can be resolved, and the fastest way to do that is by using NOMS. But no, it isn't mandatory, and thanks for your question.
And Gareth, just on that, one of the options is, because I know some people are hesitant, especially using an online system, you can use the nomination online management system to prepare your nomination, complete it all, but physically walk into one of our returning officers' office and lodge your nomination deposit there. So you'll be able to use the benefits of the roll check, the verifications through that application, but physically walk into the returning officer's office through the lodgement period to lodge your nomination.
And we understand advantages aren't the same for everyone, but the flip side of that is, of course, that it's easier to pay using NOMS.
Thanks, Gareth.
We provide a range of information resources for candidates, which we'll be displaying on our website about the process for nominating candidates and groups. Our candidate webpage will also provide information about candidates, including their political party affiliation, or if they're independent, their locality, their public contact details that we discussed earlier. That's if you provide them. We won't provide the contact details you provide to speak with us. Any details about their group voting square and their candidate information sheets. Once you're formally confirmed as a candidate, the order of candidates and the groups, as will appear on the ballot paper, will also be published.
Now, Gareth, talking about the ballot papers. The ballot paper draw to determine the order of candidates on the ballot paper will take place in the returning officer's office from 2 p.m. Thursday the 15th of August. Candidates or their representatives may attend the returning officer's office to see the ballot paper draw. If you're not able to attend, as Gareth mentioned, the candidate's webpage will be updated to reflect the ballot paper draw. A video demonstrating how the conduct of the ballot paper draw is conducted in the returning officer's office is available on the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website. Now, I just have some samples of what the ballot papers will look like here. So here we've got a ballot paper for Mayor, and you can see that it's just a single column of candidates displayed on the ballot paper. And again, where in the instance of a councillor election where there is no groups or group voting squares displayed, the candidates will be displayed in a single column on the ballot paper. In the instance of a councillor contest, and that there are groups or group voting squares requested, you can see here a sample of the ballot paper. You can see above the line is displayed by Group A, Group B, Group C. In the instance the group is nominated by a registered political party, the registered political party name will be displayed below the group voting square, above the line on the ballot paper. But below the line for Group A, you've got your candidates listed in the order as requested on the request to form a group. And in the instance, again, they're nominated by a registered political party, the affiliation will be displayed below the line, below each of those candidates. For Group B, there is no affiliation displayed below the line because that group is not nominated by a registered political party. A group not nominated by a registered political party cannot have a group name above the line. Okay? Below the line, we will display, if you indicated on your nomination form, independent, and if you indicated you would not like the word independent, that would not be displayed on the ballot paper, below your name on the ballot below your name on the ballot paper. Now, in Group D, there is no group voting square displayed above the line. Now, in this instance, the group may not have requested a group voting square, or they may not have been eligible to have a group voting square displayed above the line on that ballot paper. And then we've touched on the far right column being our ungrouped candidates. They'll be displayed in the order of the conduct of the ballot paper draw on the ballot paper, and we will display the party affiliation, or in the instance you've selected to have independent displayed below your name, that will be displayed there on that ballot paper. Now, the New South Wales Electoral Commission will make ballot paper templates available for you to assist with your preparation of electoral material. The ballot paper templates will be made available on the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website in the days following the ballot paper draw. We're not able to make them available to you until such time we've actually completed the ballot paper draw, Gareth, and that we've reviewed and proofed all of the ballot papers. We will communicate with all of our participants as soon as those ballot papers are available for you to start preparing your electoral material. Now again, I'm just as a reminder, we will be using slido.com. I can see we've got some questions, but if you have been holding off asking any questions, please don't hesitate to ask your question at slido.com using the hashtag on the screen. Now, Gareth, talking about some important points and just some reminders, I think, that we've already gone through in today's webinar. Start considering your nomination. So start considering, in the instance you're being nominated by electors, who may be your nominator. Verify if you are forming a group, or start the conversations who may be in your group if you do want to request to form a group, and the order of the candidates displayed in the group.
And just on those points, Amber, now is a time to check your enrolment as well.
And they can do that, Gareth, by accessing the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website or the Australian Electoral Commission's website. And if there is any omissions with your enrolment details, you'll need to have them updated through the Australian Electoral Commission by 6 p.m, Monday the 5th of August. The nomination lodgement period is from Monday the 5th of August to 12 noon, Wednesday the 14th of August. And please lodge your nomination as early as possible. Again, we have stressed this through today's webinar, but we do want to have the time to be able to review your nomination and for us to be able to come back to you if there is any omissions or anything that needs to be rectified. It's very hard if you leave it to the last day or the second last day for us to be able to get back to you and you have time to go get additional nominators or witnesses to sign your statutory declaration.
That's it. We seek to assist you to make sure your nomination is valid and complete. However, if we can't resolve that by noon on the nomination day, unfortunately it has been the candidate's responsibility to complete the form.
Now, some key upcoming dates for you. The Nomination Online Management System and nomination forms will be available for you from mid-July, and again, we will communicate as soon as they're available. The close of roll for the purpose of being a candidate or a nominator is at 6 p.m, Monday the 5th of August. The lodgements of nominations will commence that day, Gareth, and it's also the start of the regulated period for electoral material. And what that means is if you have any electoral material, whether that be online, Gareth, or if you're distributing electoral material, it's important to note that you need to meet certain legislative requirements. We have touched on it in the first webinar, and we will be having another webinar on electoral material for participants. But your material must have the authoriser's details, and that's the authoriser's name and physical street address. In the instance you are printing electoral material, you're required to have the printer's details, their name and the physical street address for which the material has been printed. Nominations will close at 12 noon, Wednesday the 14th of August. And any candidate or group that has not registered prior to this time will be deemed registered. And that the ballot paper draws will be conducted from 2 p.m, the day following the close of nominations. The New South Wales Electoral Commission is conducting a series of webinars in the lead up to the local government elections. As we've mentioned, the first two are available for our participants to access on the website, And the registration for the remaining webinars is available on the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website if you haven't already, for you to register and join us for future webinars and further information regarding the election. Now again, this is the information and the QR code if you would like to ask any further questions. Now Gareth, if we're going to move on to the questions that we have started to receive. The first question, which I think we've answered now, is when will the nomination forms become available? And they're looking for a precise date. Now Gareth, we're not able to provide a precise date at this point in time. We're hopeful very soon.
Yes, we appreciate that our participants, our candidates, they want to nominate, they want those forms as soon as possible. We also want to release those forms as soon as possible and have NOMS available for people to start getting their nomination forms in order. We have been waiting for some very minor changes that are potentially affecting the regulations for the election. As I said, stress, very minor, and it's our intention to release those forms as soon as possible. So we're grateful for your patience, but that is why we have been saying mid-July, and we certainly hope it is sooner. And as Amber said, we will communicate immediately with everyone who is a registered participant or has joined the mailing list when the nomination forms are available. Sorry, Amber, I will just add about the paper versions will become available at the same time as NOMS is made available. The important point is that you will need to use the nomination forms for this election. If you have a paper copy from a previous election, that is not a valid nomination. So please wait for the nomination form. We appreciate, as I said, that you want to get working on these, you want to work on your candidate information sheet to make sure you have that validly completed, and we will bring that to you as soon as possible.
Now, Gareth, the next question is regards to the cost of a nomination. Now, the nomination is it's $125. $125 per candidate. Sorry, I just had a blank as I was reading $165. It's $125 per candidate for your nomination deposit. But in the instance you are forming a group and you lodge your request to form a group and your nomination forms, and you have 6 or more candidates within your group, the nomination is capped. The nomination deposit is capped at $625. It's important to note the method for which you can pay your nominations. We've gone through that, but please ensure if you are returning in, lodging in the returning officer's office, that you do have the appropriate methods to lodge that nomination deposit with the returning officer's office. Okay.
We've received another question about what information is requested on the candidate information sheet and the statistical information sheet. We will provide, because that's a long answer, we will provide, as we do after every webinar, a summary of the questions and answers, and you'll be able to view that answer when we'll contact everyone who's watched the webinar and all our other registered participants.
Now, just to make it clear with regards to the candidate information sheet and the statistical sheet, and I think there was also a question regarding the forms. There is 2 nomination forms and there's 4 parts to them. So the nomination form, if you're using the online system, you'll log in and there's 4 sections to the nomination form. So we've got the candidate and ballot paper details, the nominated details, the candidate information sheet and the statistical sheet. In the instance you're using a paper nomination form, again, there's one form that forms 4 parts, and they're those 4 compulsory parts of your nomination that we are required. We require you as a candidate to complete and lodge with us through the lodgement period. Now, what information will be requested on the information sheet? Now, Gareth, I think we have touched on that. The candidate information sheet requires the candidate's name, locality, their role, the purpose for which they have nominated. So you have to indicate whether the candidate is on the roll of electors or the non-residential role. You're also required to indicate whether or not you are a member of a registered political party. There's also, those sections are compulsory on the candidate information sheet, and the rest of the candidate information sheet is optional.
Other than the key question, perhaps the key question on the candidate information sheet is whether you are a property developer.
Of course.
And it's a property developer as defined by the Electoral Funding Act. Now, this isn't a simple question and not a question that we can provide you advice on. When we provide the written answers to this, we'll provide links to information to help you understand whether that may be an issue for your being a candidate. So yes, we'll provide that in full. And the statistical information sheet, as I said, is there's quite a number of general information questions about age, gender, and background and occupation. So let us list those for you so you are prepared for the forms when they're available.
Now the next question, Gareth, is what election material requires approval? So I think what that means is what election material is required to be registered with the New South Wales Electoral Commission?
Electoral material that requires approval, it's approval of its registration. And as Amber said, we will hold a more detailed webinar about electoral material. But given I know you'll be preparing your material soon or starting to think about how it looks, it's material that you intend to distribute on the election day that requires registration. So we can only register electoral material that complies with the regulations around this material. So the key points there are, if you're going to distribute it on election day, that's the material that needs registration, and that's the material that requires, well, all material requires the elements that Amber touched on earlier about, is it correctly authorised, and does it have information about the printer. There are a range of other rules regarding electoral material that you can find information about on our website, but that Amber will speak to at an upcoming webinar.
That's right, thanks Gareth. Now once electronic material is submitted, how long will the approval take? With regards to, if we're talking about nominations, we will process your nominations as quickly as possible. Each nomination goes through a thorough check before we come back. So we try to come back to you with all emissions at once. So we'll get back to you as quickly as possible regarding your nomination. Again, if the earlier you lodge, I think we're all creatures of habits and we leave lodging our nominations to the last day, and history will show we will receive a very large volume. The nominations close at 12 noon. It's a very small period that we actually have to be able to get back to you on that last day. So the earlier you lodge, you may not be caught with the volume that will come through, and we will be able to get back to you quicker. We will do everything in our power to process a nomination quickly.
We're obviously stressing this point, and it's because not only have we experienced late nominations, but that experience tells us that they are the nominations that will be rejected.
That's a good point, Gareth. Now with regards to, if you're talking about electoral material, again, as we receive the electoral material, we will review it and provide that response to you as quickly as possible. Just on electoral material, the other information that we will make available to you in the near future on the website and through the webinar is we will have samples available to assist you in preparing your electoral material, and a checklist that will clearly guide you on the mandatory information or items you need to consider when preparing your electoral material before you distribute that or register that with us. Now the next question, does a candidate nominated by a political party need the party's consent to withdraw their nomination? So the withdrawal of a nomination, the registered officer or deputy registered officer of the registered political party has no involvement in the withdrawal of a nomination, Gareth. So the withdrawal form requires the candidate to complete the withdrawal form and physically sign and lodge the request of withdrawal with the New South Wales Electoral Commission.
That's right. So it's similar to the group form where we spoke about that it's the candidates who must sign, that is the order of the group. The candidate must be the person who withdraws, and they don't need the party's consent. But the party will become aware of that when the candidate does withdraw their nomination.
That's right.
So we have a question about preferences. As Amber mentioned, we do have a counting and results webinar coming up. But the question is, when there are 2 councillors to be elected and there are 3 candidates standing, how do the preferences flow? Preferences flow according to the way the voter has completed their ballot paper. So there is no way that political participants or candidates can affect what people refer to as the flow of preferences. The distribution of preferences is based only on what the elector writes on the ballot paper. This is sometimes misunderstood because some time ago there were group ticket votes that let parties control the flow of preferences. Often in New South Wales, when we speak about preferencing other candidates, it's because the political participant on their how to vote material has suggested to give the second preference to another candidate, third preference and so on. So it is solely up to the elector.
Now, Gareth, the next question's in regards to requesting a group. Can a group have more than the minimum councillors voted in the ward? Is there a maximum? So we've talked about the number of candidates you need in your group to request a group voting square, and that varies depending on whether or not you are nominating for a divided or an undivided council. There is no maximum number of candidates you can have within your group. But if your number, excessively exceeds the number that they can be elected, that they're not able to be elected in the outcome of the results.
It has no purpose.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now the next question, can the information and statistics information sheets be uploaded as PDFs rather than filling in the online form? So this candidate information sheet and statistics sheets, it's a series of questions. So if you use the online system, the candidate's information is pre-populated for you, and you're requested to complete that. The system will prompt you to print the candidate information sheet, the statistical sheet, and each section of the nomination form in that. And then the candidate, nominators, and your witness is required to physically sign that form and upload it on the system before it will allow you to lodge your nomination.
Thank you for your questions. I know you've asked several questions this morning, which we're grateful for. And as I said, we'll be publishing the answers to these questions, but I would invite you to contact the Candidate Help Desk if, in your specific circumstances, you wanted to discuss any of the answers we've provided.
Now, the last question that we've received at this point, Gareth, is whether or not nominators will have access to access NOMS and complete their nominated details, print the form and upload that. Now, for the registered political parties will have access to the nomination online management system. They're able to print, pre-populate whether or not it's the registered officer or deputy registered officer for which will be signing that nominator form. They're able to print that for any of their candidates and upload it within NOMS. As far as the nominators for a candidate nominated by electors within the area, no, the nominators don't have access to complete that section of the nomination form on the online system. What it actually allows you to do is print a blank nominator form, ask your nominators to complete that. So I would take it to Gareth. Gareth would provide his enrolment details. And then when you come back, you're able to enter the nominated details, Gareth's enrolment details. It will do a verification on what you have been provided and verify that that nominator is enrolled in the area for which you are contesting.
Which is the great advantage to NOMS in terms of you as a candidate checking that you have the two nominators that you require.
So yeah, you just enter the nominator's enrolment details and then you upload the signed nominator form to the system, similar to what we've had in previous election events. Now, Gareth, that brings us to the end of our questions.
But if you have any other questions, continue to send them in, as Amber will explain where to send them, because we welcome any questions that may occur to you after you finish watching. I should have asked that, but yeah, please send them through.
So you'll see on the screen here we do have the Candidate Help Desk, and that is available for you now to take any questions and assist you regarding any of your inquiries you may have, and that you can also contact us through the New South Wales Electoral Commission's website, and again that will come through to us. Now, as we lead into the election, the website will be progressively updated with information that's relevant to you, and we will also be communicating with you as a candidate using election bulletins, and in the instance you provide us with contact details, we'll also communicate through through emails, through the election, about any information we think you need to know or be informed of. Now, Gareth, we have got one last question before we finish up, and that is, what is the nominator asked when nominating you? So the nominator is asked, are they willing to endorse you as a candidate? And then they're required to provide their enrolment details. Whether you're using the nomination online management system or a paper nomination, the same information is required to be provided by the nominator. So we need to know the nominator's enrolment details, that being their name, their surname as enrolled, their address for which they are enrolled, their date of birth, and the form also requests that the nominator sign the nominator form. That allows us to check, also do the enrolment check on your nominator when receiving that nomination. So if you do that through NOMS, you're obviously validating that you've reached the minimum number of nominators, but it allows us, in the instance you're lodging using the paper form, to do the same checks after it's been received by the New South Wales Electoral Commission. If you do have any further questions, please do not hesitate to contact us, as we've discussed. I do thank you for joining us today, and I do hope you found today's information webinar useful. Thank you. Thank you, Gareth.
Thank you.